Hey there, so today we have another wine review. Yeah, let's just talk about this stuff while I'm working on opening this guy. So, why am I doing more wine? It's just like, I feel like it's a good time to like be learning more. And why not? Just why not, right? The one inspiration a little bit for me is Master of Wine Bob Polinsky, who does actually review a bunch of these Kirkland and Trader Joe's wines. And I actually haven't been to Trader Joe's in a gajillion years, but he recommended this one. He had his he has a video with like three Syrahs, and then one is a Grenache. So the one he liked the most was a Grenache. This is actually Grenache is actually your Garnacha in Spain, where this grape varietal is originated from. Is actually the first wine that I ever reviewed on the channel. This had to be, Jesus, a while ago, a long time ago. So I actually had a Spanish Garnacha, which is their take on, or name for Grenache, on the channel. Cheap wine. This was only $10, and I have some of the tasting notes from him. So this is actually from Paso, Robles in California, the fastest growing wine growing region in California. It's actually 40% of what they produce is actually Cabernet, with a blend of like Syrah, Merlot, blah, blah, blah. Not too much. Very little Grenache is actually grown in this region. The grape is actually most famous for the Southern Rhone. The village, or AOC, which is the appellation name, and right, like wine in France is actually named after a place and an appellation, right? Like a signification, a signifier of a place, instead of actually the varietal. So Château de Paf is like a cru, highest, the best, and it's generally blended actually with GSM. It's called GSM, which is a Grenache, Syrah, Mourvedre. And actually they call them GSMs also in Australia, where they grow, right? Well, in France they don't call them GSMs. They just call it by, Château de Paf, or whatever region it's from. So we got a California one. So let's check it out. Let's just dig into the wine. Actually, just went to drop my resume at a steakhouse, and interestingly enough, they just immediately hit me with a quiz. I guess like enough people were applying, and there was a couple wine questions on there. Right? So it's always good to educate, learn, get better, blah blah blah. So this wine's actually darker than I expected, but from what I understand, it's actually supposed to be a moderately colored wine. Syrah is blended with this wine, this grape varietal, specifically because it's a lot darker skinned grape varietal. Anyway, I read it's supposed to be anywhere from in between Pinot Noir and Syrah, which are sort of the ranges of darkness. Pinot Noir is very light skinned, and then moving on. But yeah, I guess that's sort of see it. I can see through. Yeah, I can see through it, but it's not as pale as Pinot Noir. Definitely not as dark as Cabernet or Syrah. Yeah, nice color. On the nose, okay. Feels got to open up a bit. But yeah, I mean, familiar kind of like red fruit character. I think the traditional tasting notes are going to be raspberry and strawberry. Yeah, nice and fruity. I feel like anyway, I watched a review of my review that I did like a gajillion years ago. That was definitely a nicer wine. I think that was like almost a $20 bottle. Yeah, there's a little bit of fruit in there, strawberry, raspberry. I'm not getting too much on the nose too. Oh yeah, it's way different on palate. Okay, so sometimes that's why they have decanters. Sometimes people recommend opening up a wine, letting the air sort of like aeration. And now I sort of like get the clue of like what opening up wine means. Sort of got the clue. We'll learn a little bit of that when I got into whiskey. Specifically some whiskeys / bourbons. There's like a chemical reaction between like the oiliness in the whiskey, and then some whiskeys do react to just a hair drop of water and sort of like changes the flavor profile of it. Here it seemed very tight on the nose. Even tight on the palate, I get a little bit, right? Like up front, I was getting a little bit more flavor, and then now it's like still not as open as I want it, but but yeah, let's dig into the flavors. So up front, it does seem a little bit darker than the aroma. Definitely strawberry, raspberry, but I'm also getting some like red plum action going on. They mentioned savory in here. Okay, I can see that. and then it's just like nice and clean and dry, like nothing too tannic about it. This specifically Grenache is not meant to have a lot of like high tannic character. Again, it is a blending wine, or it is a varietal used in blending for a more complete kind of product. Tastes good. Let's see what Bob says. So Bob says strawberry raspberry on the nose, medium plus intensity. On the palate, medium plus weight. That's one thing I mentioned. The weight of the wine. Okay, medium plus weight, yeah, see that. He's mentioned some savory. So specifically, this varietal is going to have some of that savory. But I think they mean by savory spice, not really like saltiness, but I can see that with a little bit of this kind of like dried sage kind of action in there. He mentions more red fruit, finishes soft, not complex and not layered, right? Which I can see. The analogy of what complex wine sort of looks or tastes and tastes like is sort of a visual thing that you can do, or auditory thing you could do, where you splash a puddle, depending on how heavy that rock is, how much wave you're going to get, right? You scream into a cave, the louder you are, the more echoes you're going to get, right? Like, so this is not meant to be a super complex product, because again, you're spending $10 on it. You pay for, you get what you pay for. But he very much enjoyed just the clarity of the fruit in here, good drinking wine for the price. And as someone who's learning, probably spending $50 on wine and not knowing anything is not a good idea. Nice to just get introduced to the product, get some tasting notes. Again, this is literally how I recommend that you guys learn about beer. It's the most fun way that I've found. It's how I built my palate. You buy a product, or you find a product that's recommended, and you're like, oh, shoot, let me try to find that. So I literally went out of my way to Trader Joe's, searched all around the store, and I found it in like some random corner. Almost walked out of the store not finding it. Compare tasting notes with the Master of Wine, right? And then now I also have Wikipedia open. So now I have and this is way too much to learn. So I'm not gonna spend the whole night doing it, but you can learn about regions and tasting notes of the grape, and again, everything you'd imagine about the wine, and that sort of reflects the beer, right? You learn about a beer style, well, you learn about a grape varietal, but also learn about geography. You also learn about the viticulture of it, because terroir about it, its growth patterns, so much to learn, right? So, would I recommend this? You know what? Literally, as I'm talking, maybe my palate's acclimated to it, but as I'm sitting here, just swirling this, having the air come in, I'm getting more and more of this kind of red fruit character. Not bad. Yeah. It's good drinking wine. Yeah. Nice fruit character, right? I can see what Bob Polinsky's talking, Master of Wine Bob Polinsky's talking about. It's just, you get a fruit character, pure wine, nothing fake to it, nothing doctored and manipulated. That's one of the scary things about wine, is that they literally doctor and manipulate wine to make it fake flavored, with actual fake flavorings to attract people that aren't expert wine, or aren't looking for wine tasting wine, if that makes any sense. Oh yeah, there you go. The nose are already better. Yeah, these are one of the fun things. Sometimes I literally watch these reviews and people's like, oh, it needs to open up. It's a little bit tight. And I'm like, what does that even mean? And now I'm doing it right here. I'm sort of it's opening my eyes to see oh yeah, sometimes just crack a wine and just try to dig in there and smell it and taste it. Not going to get there. That's why they have these decanters, and more surface area, more air you can pull into the wine, the more it opens up and sort of allows its aromatics. And again, the aromatics is retronasal, so that literally affects what's on your palate. So just thinking that it's tight on the nose is gonna not affect your experience. It entirely affects the entire experience. That what you're getting on the nose is very much affects what you taste. Yep, there you go. As I'm talking, I'm just that first impression. I was oh, I got some red fruit. Second sip, didn't really get it. I was mostly getting that kind of dark plum, savory character. Now brightened up a little bit more expansive in his flavor profile. Hope you learned something today. I definitely did. So cheers.